His life's journey had unfolded within the walls of orphanages. John was acutely aware that aside from his elderly great-grandmother, he had no living kin. During his time at the orphanage, she was a frequent visitor, always bearing delectable pastries and an assortment of sweets. The years flowed by steadily. Upon graduating from the orphanage, John found his footing at a vocational school. He secured a modest apartment room for himself. During weekends, his heart gravitated towards his cherished great-grandmother, Jasmine. His affection for her ran deep, and on each visit, he arrived bearing thoughtful gifts, reciprocated with her warm pastries. They would converse at length, sharing stories and laughter. On this particular occasion, John came bearing a grand bouquet of roses, marking the occasion of his beloved grandmother's birthday. She extended invitations to neighbors, and the jubilation ensued. After the last guest had departed, John embraced his great-grandmother tightly, his curiosity rekindled about his long-lost parents. This topic hadn't graced their conversation in quite some time. He had scant knowledge. His mother's demise during childbirth was the sum of it. Jasmine, her eyes brimming with nostalgia, reached for an old oak chest and sifted through its contents. After a brief search, she produced a weathered photo album and handed it to John, revealing that it held a treasure trove of images of his mother. She went on to recount the days when they lived together as a close-knit family. John's maternal grandparents had been avid explorers, with a penchant for journeying to enigmatic locales. During one of their expeditions with a group, exploring ancient caverns, they became separated, losing their way and ultimately succumbing to a cave-in. When the expedition party returned, the grim realization dawned that 2 members were missing. A rescue mission was dispatched, but it was too late. With the children left parentless, Jasmine assumed guardianship of her granddaughter, who was younger than. However, this mantle of guardianship did not extend to John. As tears welled up in his eyes, he perused the photographs intently. A startling discovery awaited him as he stumbled upon a picture of his mother cradled in the arms of a young man. He inquired about this mysterious figure to his great-grandmother. She studied the photograph for a moment before sighing, revealing that he was none other than John's father. Her knowledge of him was limited, as he had arrived as part of a student group to assist with the harvest, where John's mother was also working. That's where their story began. An undeniable connection had sparked between them. Despite Jasmine's attempts to dissuade her granddaughter, she remained resolute in her belief that their love was genuine. When the harvest season drew to a close, the student group had to depart. On that fateful day, Jasmine anxiously awaited her granddaughter's return. She arrived home in the early hours of the morning, initiating a somber conversation. They engaged in a heated exchange, but ultimately, the granddaughter prevailed, convincing her that there was nothing more than friendship between her and Thomas. The passage of time was relentless. The grandmother couldn't help but notice the changes in her granddaughter, her newfound penchant for salty foods, her growing pallor. Concerned, she approached her, expressing her worries, but her granddaughter brushed them aside with reassurances that all was well. Then, one day, her granddaughter announced her intention to travel to the city, citing the need for new clothing and the lower cost of groceries there. As their supplies dwindled, with a warm goodbye, the granddaughter embarked on her journey, leaving the grandmother to visit their neighbors for a pleasant chat. As daylight waned and evening shadows stretched, the grandmother, standing at her doorstep awaiting her granddaughter's return, couldn't help but notice the state of her boots. An uneasy feeling settled in her heart, leading her to venture into her granddaughter's room, where she found her weeping, her face buried in a pillow. Concerned, she gently probed, prompting her granddaughter to reveal the heart-wrenching tale. It appeared that Thomas had received a military draft notice and had been dispatched to war. But the most devastating news was yet to come. Thomas had not returned. Their convoy had fallen prey to an ambush, with no survivors. The news of his death had left Thomas's parents in a state of despair, and within weeks, he was laid to rest. The granddaughter recounted this harrowing tale to her grandmother, who resided in the same house as Thomas's parents. Listening to her granddaughter's grief-stricken words, Jasmine enveloped her in a warm embrace. "My dearest granddaughter, We will face this hardship together, and for as long as I draw breath, you shall have my unwavering support." They clung to each other for an extended period, finding solace in their shared sorrow. As time passed, the granddaughter's belly began to swell, prompting the grandmother to make a difficult decision. To shield her from the prying eyes and wagging tongues of their small community, she arranged for her granddaughter to stay with a distant acquaintance in the city. Jasmine spent a restless night, a foreboding sense of impending events weighing on her heart. In the morning, she hastily packed her belongings and boarded a bus to the city. Upon arriving at the maternity ward, she was met with a shocking revelation: her granddaughter was no longer there, and the baby was under the care of the medical staff. The birth had been fraught with complications, resulting in substantial blood loss. Tragically, only the baby had survived, as the granddaughter had passed away, now advanced in years. Jasmine made the heart-wrenching decision to place the child in an orphanage. As she concluded her heart-rending tale about the grandmother, she wiped away her tears with a delicate handkerchief. John, moved by the story, asked his grandmother for the photograph featuring his mother and father, which bore an address and a home phone number on the back. He hoped that by reaching out to neighbors who might still remember them, he could uncover more about his father's past. His great-grandmother welcomed John's quest, understanding that every individual has the right to uncover their family history. As John arrived in the city, he made his way to the address imprinted on the photograph. Approaching the building, he noticed a cluster of elderly women engaged in lively discourse near the entrance. John greeted them courteously, apologizing for disrupting their conversation, before inquiring about the apartment where his father had once resided. The elderly women exchanged knowing glances, and then one of them stepped forward, offering an explanation. She revealed that a disabled man in a wheelchair currently occupied that apartment, cared for by a dedicated woman. Presently, he eked out a living by playing the guitar in the underground passage. Each morning, a woman brought him to his performance spot, attended to his needs, and escorted him back home in the evening. With renewed determination, John headed towards the apartment building. He had often passed by it countless times, and the sight of the gray-haired man in the wheelchair, strumming his guitar, had always drawn him in. Perhaps this man held the key to unlocking the secrets of his father's past. Considering his long tenure in that apartment, John descended into the subway, approaching the man in the wheelchair, and their eyes met, setting the stage for a crucial encounter. "Why aren't you playing? Why so silent?" John inquired, breaking the stillness of the moment. The stranger regarded John with a mix of curiosity and caution. "I'd like to know your last name and first name first," he replied cautiously. Puzzled, John pondered the request but decided to trust the stranger. He retrieved a cherished photograph of his mother from his pocket and extended it to the man. "I believe this might provide some answers," John explained, noting the striking resemblance in their eyes and the subtle strands of gray in their hair. Taken aback by the photograph, the stranger's eyes welled up with tears. He had no inkling that he had a son, let alone such a handsome one. Moved by the revelation, John offered a trembling hand to his newfound father, forging a profound connection between them. He then accompanied his father to the apartment building, where the door was opened by the woman who had been diligently caring for him. After a series of heartfelt conversations, John thanked the woman for her devoted service and paid her for her time, explaining that her assistance was no longer required. The circle of family, once broken, had now come full circle, reuniting father and son. As evening settled in, the two men found themselves seated on the couch, their conversation stretching into the night. John absorbed his father's harrowing tale of being taken captive when their convoy fell victim to an ambush. An explosion had catapulted him into a ravine, where he lay for an unknown duration before regaining consciousness, only to discover he was in captivity. His desperate attempts to escape had resulted in severe leg injuries. It was a twist of fate that ultimately led to his salvation. A passing military vehicle had stopped near the dwelling where he was confined, seeking water from a nearby well. As the homeowner headed towards the well, he seized the opportunity to scream for help. Catching the attention of the soldier, the shed door was flung open, and the taste of freedom he had yearned for washed over him. Following his rescue, he was airlifted back to his homeland, where he received the somber news of his parents' passing. The love of his life had also tragically departed this world. Their conversation wove a tapestry of shared pain and the profound impact of life's tumultuous twists and turns. Father and son sat together, leaning on each other for strength and understanding, their connection rekindled in the face of adversity. For an extended period, Thomas diligently worked on the task of restoring his long-lost documents. To his surprise, his parents' apartment, which had once been a bustling abode, had remained vacant. Despite various tenants passing through without staying for long, engaging in heartfelt conversations with his father, John unearthed a treasure trove of stories from their shared past. He learned of his father's inseparable friend, a companion with whom Thomas had shared countless adventures. Armed with his friend's last name, John ventured into the realm of social media and reached out with a heartfelt message detailing his father's journey and their newfound connection, accompanied by a request for a meeting. The response came swiftly, filled with eagerness and warmth. The friend invited them over for a lunch that would be forever etched in their hearts. The two friends embraced each other with the intensity of reunited kindred spirits. It was in that very house that John also crossed paths with his future wife, the daughter of his father's cherished friend. With his father's friend holding a prominent position, securing a sanatorium stay for Thomas's much-needed treatment was a straightforward endeavor. However, Thomas steadfastly refused to leave the family apartment that held memories of both joy and sorrow. In a gesture of unwavering devotion, John arranged to exchange his own apartment for one on the same floor as his father, ensuring that they remained close and connected. Life moved forward, and John and his wife welcomed 3 children into their lives, each of them spending cherished hours at their grandfather's place, returning home in the evenings with laughter and stories to share. In the course of John's quest to reunite with his father, he extended an invitation for his father to visit his great-grandmother. The meeting brought immense joy to all, but sadly, a few months later, his great-grandmother's journey reached its peaceful conclusion. The house where she had lived for so long transformed into a cherished summer retreat, becoming a place where the extended family gathered to celebrate the bonds that held them together. It's astonishing how a small photograph from an old album could reshape John's destiny, leading to the reunion he had yearned for over the years. The story is a testament to the profound impact of reconnection, where hearts find peace in the embrace of loved ones who were once lost but are now found.